All right, in a previous video, I've shown how to set up HTTP only cookie using the Next.js backend API and context API. And I'm using Strapi v4 version 4 as a backend. And setting up HTTP only cookie was only the beginning. In this video, I want to show the other features like route guarding or route protection, user sign up, profile page. And within that profile page, I'm adding two features, password reset and profile image upload to the Strapi media library. Now, let's start with route protection. But before I explain anything here, let's go to the application and show you what I'm talking about. So let's begin with the sign up page. This one, I'm only showing when nobody's logged in, because if somebody's logged in, that means they already have an account. So they have no need for this page anymore. So let's see if what happens to this when I log in. I logged in and got redirected to the home page, and we no longer see the sign up page. And let's say if I try to access it, /sign up, look, it comes back to the home page. So it pushes it out, right? And now let's see what happens when I try to go to the profile page. Profile page is accessible just fine, but this should not be accessed by anyone who is not logged in, right? So let's log out, and now I'm redirected back to home page again. But now if I try to access the profile page again, I'm also once again pushed back to the home page because that is no longer accessible. On the other hand, now that I'm logged out, if I try to go back to the sign up page, I can access it again. Now that being said, let's go back. So here I am using the context API, and using context API, I'm using a file called auth context. Within this auth context, I'm maintaining a state called is authenticated. This is a state that I am maintaining depending on the user's login status. If the user is logged in, it is true. And if they're logged out, it's going to turn into false. And based on that, I'm building two HOCs, which is higher order component. One is called with auth, and the other one is without auth. And these higher order components, I am wrapping them. Let's say the profile page, which should be shown only when logged in, so with auth. So that means if is authenticated is true, this page will show up. Otherwise, I will redirect back to home page. And quite opposite happening here with the sign up page. When somebody is logged out, because of this HOC or higher order component, I am sending them back to the home page. That being said, now let's go have some code review. All right, so now we are back at the code. As you can see here, this is my auth context, and this is located right here under the context folder, auth context right here. And you can see all my imports appear, and then this is the interface for TypeScript, where I am describing all my data types. And as you can see here, is authenticated is a Boolean, and that's the one I was talking about. This maintains this, the user's auth status all over the application. And I also send the user data is loading this open Boolean. This helps me open or close the login modal. And then as usual, login, log out, and the other functions. All these I actually went over in pretty good detail on my last video. Please take a look at that if you want a refresher. But I'm going to go ahead and try to explain as much as I can here also. Then I create the auth context. And in here, in the auth provider function, this is where I declare all my states. And this is a very important part of the context, which is a use effect where I'm actually checking for a auth flag in the local storage. Now, why local storage? Because as soon as somebody logs in here, you can see if I go down to my login, as soon as the login is successful, I am setting it an auth flag, setting an auth flag in the local storage, because context API, as you know, once the page is refreshed, all the state will be lost. So we need to persist that authentication status. Now, before, when I was using a browser side cookie, I did not need this auth flag because I would just store my JWT token in the browser and take everything from there. But this time, though, my JWT token is only on the server side and not accessible via the client side script. So I had to be innovative here and create an auth flag. And let me just show you. So as you can see here, I am under the application and local storage, which is empty. And I am logged out right now. So let's log in. And as soon as I log in, you see the auth flag shows up. And because of that, and that use effect that I'm showing right now, if I refresh the page, everything is maintained. My status is maintained. And also, since I am adding the user data, updating it, it is just showing up right here. All the user data is available. Okay, so as you can see here, if the auth flag is missing or the user is logged out, then I'm setting the is authenticated to false and user to null and everything else. But if it is true, then I am making a call to the backend via this auth service and check auth status so that I can collect the necessary user data. And how this is happening let's check the auth service, and you will find it right here under the service folder, and we go to the auth service. And here I have all the functions like the login, logout, and the check status here. Normally, once again, if we had the browser-based cookie, we could finish up the job right here because our JWT token will be available, would have been available via the browser cookie. But we have now go to another step, go to make a call to the backend. And the backend means Next.js based backend, which is /API/current user, only because now I have to get this done on the server side because that's where the JWT HTTP only token is available. So to perform that, I have two different clients. One is a simple API client, which is this. And this I'm using just to talk to my local API, which is the Next.js based one. And if we go under pages, under API, we find this current user. And this is where we're making the call from here, auth service, the /current user. And this current user now making the call to the actual backend, the Strapi backend. This is the Strapi URL /users. And Strapi actually makes a nice little endpoint available for us, /user/me, which is nothing but the current user's information. We use populate so that we can collect the additional information because by default, it does not give us the extra collections, let's say the image information, etc., that are available. And as you can see here, we are actually collecting the JWT cookie from the server-side request. And the reason why is this, because during login time, once we collected the server-side cookie, once we collected the JWT token, we just converted that into a server-side cookie or a HTTP-only cookie like this. Thus, this is now available inside our every request. And if you're wondering about this URL, we can just go back. In here, we can see this is the Strapi URL, using 1337 /API users and me, and I'm using the populate. And if I send it information, this is what I get. I get all the information. Without the populate, you're going to get up to here, just that. But because of that populate star, now we have the profile image, which is a big collection, even though it's part of the Strapi's media library, but it comes in as a collection. It does not show up by default until you populate it. I also have one thing, one collection extra, which is the, user comments, etc. But if I remove this and do send, then I get the small information. So because of that, in here, I just added this extra parameter, populate star, and I'm collecting this HTTP only cookie from here, making the call and getting that data in here. So from this auth service, now all the data being sent to my auth context, and this is how when I do find a is authenticated state to be true, I'm also making one call to the backend and getting the correct user data. And because of that, all the user data is now available in the front end, even after I do a page refresh. That's how I'm persisting the data, right? And the rest is just error handling, etc., etc., right? Now, that being said, now that you know where this is auth coming from, is authenticated, right? So based on that now, let's go check up on the HOCs we talked about, the higher order components. And these are the ones helping me provide the route protection, right? So one is with auth, and in here, I'm just creating a higher order component, and I'm bringing in the routing information and is authenticated information. And just because this is with auth, so if I check and the is authenticated is missing, or let's say if it is false, then I just push the user to the front end, the home page, right? And in here, exact same thing, but only this time, this is without auth. So if it is true, that means somebody is authenticated, then I do the opposite. I send them to the home page if they're authenticated. Now let's see how we are implementing them to the corresponding pages. As we mentioned before, we are dealing with two different pages. One is sign up, and the other one is profile. Sign up uses the without auth because if the user is logged in, it should not be accessible. So I just simply after creating the component, I just wrap it with without authentication, and the opposite is done here. Now profile, since somebody needs to be logged in to be able to access this page. So here I'm bringing in the with auth and wrapping the profile page. And that being said, now let's go to the next step. Okay, so hopefully you understood what's going on behind this route protection thing. Now, next is the sign up page. Before we describe what all these, let's go to the application and let's access the sign up page. Right, this. Okay, so now let's try to sign up somebody. Basically, okay, so let's see what's happened when I click on it without any information. So my client-side validation kicked in. Now let's see if I put Penny in there at email.com and the password. I intentionally kept it open so that I can see what I'm typing. So now let's see if I try to click sign up, what happens. Looks like it failed, and it actually telling me what is happening in the backend, right? So if we check here for the network and sign up, and it is actually telling me email and username are already taken. So this is basically coming straight from Strapi, and this error message we are showing up right here, right? All right, so now let's try to log in somebody else, and I just wanted to show what's happening in the backend. This is my Strapi server, and these are all the users you can see so far created. So now let's try Nemo. All right, so password I'm keeping the same. So now let's go with sign up, and there you go. And this is coming up, because I implemented a library called Reactosify. And, as I go review the code, I'll show you about the details here. So now let's check also here we can see Nemo has been created, all the information with it, the JWT token sent. And let's go to the backend, and if I refresh, right there, that's my new user. Now let's go back. So in this sign up page, I have 4 components. First one is under the pages sign up and index.tsx, which is simply calling this component because I organize my page content under component page view. Sign up content tsx, and this one has this form in there, as you saw in the app, the sign up form, and that comes from component form sign up. And this guy, when you hit submit, this guy calls this Next.js server-side API URL, pages API signup.ts. And that being said, let's go to the code. Okay, so we are back at the code, and this time we're looking for the sign up page. We should go under pages, and this is the sign up and the index. This is the file, as you can see. We came here before, and this guy is simply calling the sign up content. Where it is, it's under components, page view, sign up content, right? Okay. So here, only the most important thing is the sign up form. Other than that, it's pretty much just a whole bunch of styling and flat TSX, as you can see here. Let's go there and sign up, and all this mumbo jumbo. I mean, I don't have the functionality added yet, but I will later. So this is pretty much all the TSX you're looking at. Now let's go to the form, which is the actual important part here, the sign up form. And to get to the sign up form, we have to go under component form, and here it is, the sign up form. Now we have some explaining to do. Okay, here we have the regular imports, and this is where I'm actually bringing the toast object from the React Toastify, and we will see as we move along how to use them. And the set open we're bringing from the auth context, and as I mentioned before, this is the one is helping me opening and closing the login modal. Other than that, I have a simple error message thingy which I use to display the backend error message. And in here, I am setting up the React hook form, which I'm calling right here, React hook form, structuring all the components, the register, handle, submit, form state, etc. And this is the on submit function. Now, I have to confess, I mean, normally, as you saw before, I use them in a very structured, readable manner. I usually call them from a service, as you saw before. Let's say it should have been here, the auth service. I have a register function, and I would have been calling it via the auth service and then API client, etc., etc. But here I just missed it. I forgot to refactor it, so everything is right here. I normally don't have all this post stuff inside my component. But that being said, I apologize. So let's move on. Here I am getting the response data. I'm sending all the information, collecting from the form. But before we go down to the form, here is how I am handling my error messages. And in here, if I'm getting the error message from the JSON, I'm collecting that JSON and adding to the error message set with set error message, and that's how you saw the server-side error message showing up under the form, right? When there was somebody already had an account and we were trying to insert them. That's the Strapi error message coming straight from Strapi, and this is how I'm making it show up in my form. And that being said, here are two little things, but very important. A use effect to set the set open false, because this is helping me do this. Let's say if I come here to go to the sign up page, as soon as I click here, go to the sign up page, and my modal closes, right? And that's what this function is doing. It's, as soon as the sign up page starts, the sign up modal is closing. And here is another one, a open modal one, and that we're going to see come to life at the very end. We'll show you. Now let's go. This is basically a bunch of the image and stuff. And here is my first input. Here I am registering the username and having the message, error message and everything being handled just by React hook form. For validation, you can use other libraries like Zod and whatever, but here, for simplicity's sake, I really didn't need all that. So I had just React hook form handle it all, right? So just like that, error message showing up right here. This is the email input. Here I am, using the regular expression. I am creating a error message, invalid email, and the rest is once again the error message. And this is the password block. And here I am also implementing size of the text. Let's say if I go here, if I put a password, let's say, actually I have to sign up, and then say, let's say if it's less than 8, it's just going to tell you it needs to be at least 8 character, right? And this is where this is happening. And at the very bottom, this is my sign up button. This is the usual. And in here, if you're already a member, you can hit login, and that's where that function is coming in handy. I'm changing the state of the open modal to true. Modal is opening, so as soon as you sign up, you can just click on login, and that's going to come up. In fact, I'm going to probably add this feature with the sign up. So as soon as you hit sign up, as soon as this successful sign up happens, I will automatically have this modal open, and that works using the context API. This open modal, and if we go all the way up, we see this is where I'm changing the state, and this function I am bringing in from the use auth hook that I created in my auth context form. And also this on submit, I'm getting this handle submit from the React hook form, and in here in my form, I'm actually calling the on submit handle submit, and I'm sending the on submit form in there. That's how I'm calling my submit form. And that being said, now let's go see what is happening when this fetch is in action. It is actually going to the local Next.js API and sign up. So to find that, we have to go under pages, under API, sign up. And this I did using the URL for consistency's sake. I'm keeping everything backend at the backend, even though I did not need the JWT token, from the request block. But since this is sign up, I don't need the JWT. But for consistency's sake, I'm putting everything up here. Here I'm calling the post method using Strapi API client that I showed before. And this is the Strapi URL /auth/local/register. And this one takes these 3 arguments and goes ahead and registered someone. And here it is the error handling. All this stuff is just error handling. And as I promised before, let me go to the sign up form and show you when I am also, showing the error message. I'm also using that toast.error, which is right here. See, I'm getting it from the React Toastify. and that's why that tiny little message on the upper right hand corner shows up with if it is successful in a green color. If it is there's an error message, then it's a red color. And there's one more twist to this one. Just by using this, it's not going to work properly, but to make it work correctly, we have to go to all the way to the pages and app.tsx, and in here we have to call in the toast container from the React Toastify and use it right underneath the component like this, test container. Only then this messages will show up properly. And this is how the sign up is actually happening. And that being said, this completes our sign up process. Now let's move on to the next. All right, welcome to the profile page. Right, before I go over the details, let's check out the profile page. Let's go to the login and log in as somebody, and boom, there we go. We are redirected to the profile page. And as you can see here, this has three different blocks: the header block, and then profile image uploader block, and the password management block, right? So when I initially coded these features in, I actually put them all in one page, right? Just for the convenience. But later on, I went ahead and refactored it. And that's what I'm going to go over in this part. This profile page, initially, it has just the under the pages profile index, and the simple index file calls in the profile content. As I mentioned before, everything I put before this content file, but later on when I refactored it, I divided them up into these three components. And the first one was the header, which I kept under UI UX. And the other guys were forms, so I put them under forms, update password, form TSX, and update profile image form TSX. That being said, let's go to the code. Okay, so first let's find the profile page under pages, profile index, and this is what it is, a simple one, and this is calling the profile content. And to find profile content, we have to go under component, page view, and profile content. Like I said before, I added all these features. Everything was in this same page, or like profile content. But once I refactored them, I divided them up into three, which is the user profile header, the profile image form, and the password form, right? So in this part, I'm just going to explain this profile header, which can be found under UI UX and profile header. And there it is. It actually has nothing but a whole bunch of TSX or JSX, whatever you prefer. So here I am, just bringing the user from the use context. And the reason being, I'm using this inside the, I'm looking into this user and looking for the profile image URL. If that exists, then I am showing the user profile image. Otherwise, I am going with a simple icon. And that's about it. The rest is just static content, which I will eventually bring in from the Strapi database. And that being said, let's go back to the profile content. And these two guys, let's check out next. Okay, so let's tackle the password update feature this time. All right, before we go over this, let's go to the application. All right, and all that happening inside the profile page. And here is the password form. And first of all, let's see how the validation works. Okay, it's actually validating everything, required, current, etc., etc. Now let's put in the password, the current password, which can come from the from Penny's email because this is her account. And let's type up something. Okay, as you can see, it's also validating the characters. So let's type in 8 character. Okay, it goes away. Now let's confirm. Perfect. Now, what you saw so far, it's just the client-side validation. And now if I hit this, oh, look at that error. Right? It is coming straight from the server, and it is saying password must be different. So what happened is I'm using the current password and the changing password the same. That's why in the server end, it actually caught it. Also, let's say if current password was a mismatch, I would probably get a different message. Hit that, look at that. The provided current password is invalid. So there is a mismatch there. But then again, let's match it up. I hit it again. Now I got the same error message as before. Now let's give it the new set of passwords. Okay. Now try to hit it again. Oh, there's a mismatch. All right. So let's give it the same one. Okay. Now if we hit it, oh, there you go. Password change successful. And that being said, let's go back. Let's explain this. So basically, it's the update password form, which resides under components and forms. And this guy basically calls a custom hook, and the custom hook has all the form submission code, right? And this is where things get a little bit complicated. So I'll try my best to explain properly when we go back to code. But for now, just know that this only holds the form, and the form submission logic and error messaging and everything comes from here. And this guy also, where on submission of the form, this guy actually talks to this Next.js server-side API URL. The pages /API update password, and this guy then gets the JWT token from the server side request object, and then makes the call to Strapi backend and updates the password, and then it sends the result back to this guy, and this guy eventually sends it back to him, and that's how we get to see all the server side error messages in our form right underneath it, right? That being said, let's go back to the code. All right, this is where we left off. We actually went over use profile header. Now we're going to tackle update password form, right? So let's go find this. Let's go under component, forms, update password form. Okay, there you go. So this is the guy. Now, at the very beginning, you just see I'm using a hook, a whole bunch of stuff coming in. Now, before I go ahead and explain this, just look at this, what it hook, look at the hook, what it's actually bringing in. So let's go back to the hook first. Then we'll come back to it and explain the rest, right? And just know that this is only holding the form code, right? All the functionality happening in the hook. So to find the hook, we should go under the hooks folder and get the use password update hook, right? So here, actual function, I'm minimizing it because we will come back to it. So initially, this is a interface for TypeScript, which explains what our form object is going to look like. And here is the main hook, use password update. At the very beginning, what we're doing is we are declaring a server-side error message. We're going to separate them out because, as you can see here, when I actually call in the React hook form, that actually gives us the register, handle, submit, watch, form state, which actually has the validation error. And to keep in mind that these validation errors are happening on the front end. And that's why for the server-side stuff, I created a separate variable or state, right? So in here, once we create our form, like basically using the use form, we actually get this one's like a register, which actually registers all the inputs. Handle submit. This is the one responsible for submitting the form, and then watch is you can attach to a specific variable to follow, because according to changes to that specific form input, in this case just the password, right? Because this one handles one only, the new password, right? And according to this watch method, it will follow this state around, and whenever there's a slight change to this state or a variable, it actually causes a repaint of the object of the page or the component, right? So in here we are collecting all these, basically registering the form, and once we do, we are returning, since this is a hook, we are returning this register, the handle submit. Now this handle submit we already collected from here, and we are sending the whole thing. Normally with the React hook form, we do the submit like this. We, inside the handle submit function, we send our original submit function. Like here on password submit, we throw that in there, and to send it back to the to return from the hook, we are actually putting it all on the handle submit, so that when it does go to our form, it's going to look simple. So we are handling the complexity right here, and this errors is basically the front end errors or client side errors. And password, which is we are following, which is the new password. This is important because this needs to be validated twice. Once it actually the new, as it goes in as a new password, and then on the confirmation, according to this value, we actually match it to confirm that this is the password, right? The new password. And then comes the server error message. So at this point, it is pretty much doing nothing. It's just registering the form and getting all these stuff from the React hook form and sending it, just a return as a return object, right? So now that we know what's coming from the hook, let's go back to the form. So now we know it's a register. This is we're going to use to register all our objects, all our inputs. Handle submit, we use right here on submit for the form, straight up, and then errors, password, and server error message, right? So in here, first input is the type password, and this is, we're registering as current password. So there's not much to this one, and errors dot current password. If there is an error, and we're gonna show that error immediately at the front end. This is actually the current client side error, right? Client side validation error, as it shows here. Now this is the actual object that we're going to be following, the new password, right? This is also type password, and we are registering it as password, and we're going to be following that around using that watch method. And here I am just including some validations, local validations like a min length and the validation message, etc., etc. We're using the React hook form, and in here once again we are displaying all the client side error, by which I mean this. Like as soon as I hit this, these guys are the client side ones, right? And then the other one I showed coming straight from the server, that's going to be the server error. So let's go back. So here we just registered our new password, and here we are registering the confirm password, and we're calling it confirm password also. And this time we are validating with the value, and we're matching the value with the password. And this is the guy we were watching in here, right? See, watch password, and this is the guy we sent. And in here we are actually matching it with the previous one. And that's why we needed to watch it, because according to this change, we're going to be generating this error, client-side error, right? And that being said, now this is the our submit button, and right underneath that we have server-side error message. And this one we're going to fill it up uh, according to this function right here, right? We're going to come back to that, but just for now, see that this is the server-side error, and this is also sent to this form by this hook, right? Now let's go back to the hook and look at our actual form submission function on password submit. Here we're just getting the data, all the arguments as according to this, the TypeScript data structure or interface, the password, current password, confirm password. So we are taking them as an input here, argument, and then we are making a call to the local API. Now, this is where we're gonna need this guy right here. See, this is the Next.js API, and this is where the actual server-side communication will happen. So, and then we're gonna use a put method because we're just updating it. And this is where we are. Now, we have to be very careful here. No matter what we use on this side, that's not a problem. But we have to make sure that current password, new password, and confirm password, letter for letter, they have to be exact, because that's what Strapi is expecting. Otherwise, it's just going to keep sending you error messages saying exact same thing, and you're going to be confused. But what I realized that it's actually trying to tell me that these words must be exact, right? So before, however else we collect this from from that form data, that's not a problem. We can call it password or whatever. But here, when we're assigning it and sending it to Strapi, we have to have these words exactly, right? And that being done, now we are collecting the response data, and based on that we are generating all this error handling, right? And this is where we are, if there was no error, we the set server message we're setting to null. But if there is error message, we are getting from the response data to a dot error. We're we're just setting the server side error and eventually displaying it right here. This is the server error message, right? So all that being done, and also implementing the Toastify, React Toastify, toast.error, that those tiny error messages popping up there, and this is how we are making the call and updating the password. But now let's go see what this guy is doing, the local API. So to find him, we have to go to Pages, API, and update password. There you go, update password. Now here, we're first just checking for the put method. If not, we're gonna just return error. But if it is a put method, then there you go. We have the from the request body, we're collecting the exact variables as sent. And from here, request.cookie.jwt, this is what we're collecting. As mentioned before, this is the HTTP only cookie, right? And for that reason, we always have to have this server-side API URL so that we can communicate with the backend. Otherwise, from the client side, we can never reach this cookie, right? So, and then, if this is missing, then we're going to say not authenticated. So we're going to refuse a service. Otherwise, we just go move forward. And in here, once again, I'm using Strapi client, sending a post method to auth/change password. This is a Strapi version 4 API URL. And this is where we're sending all the necessary data and the auth token, bearer token. And if this is successful, we're sending the response.data. If not, we're handling the error right here. And that concludes our password reset process. Now let's go to the next step. All right, let's handle profile image upload, last but not least. Let's go first to the application and see what we can do here. And before I attempt to upload, let me show you the backend. This is the media library at the Strapi backend. But these images will show up only when you manually update something here, upload something here. But if you upload through API, it creates an extra folder like this. And these are the images comes from the API, all right? It's just a separate folder. That's how they organize data, right? So let's keep an eye out. Like these are the old files. And let's go and try to find a new one. Let's say, and open, upload. Boom, there you go. Right, look at that. This is the whole object, right? It just got uploaded and our navigation got updated. And here, if we refresh, there you go, image is here. Okay, so that being said, let's go to the explanation. Just like before, our upload profile image form is under component forms. And this guy talks to the custom hook, use profile image upload. And this guy now talks to two separate, backend server URLs. But just for separation of concern, that's the term, if you heard it, like keep your concerns separate. Like let's say if something is responsible for image upload, just let it do that. And then if some other function is or file is responsible for the user update, separate it. So that's how I separate these two. And these two are being called from this hook, and this hook eventually sends the result to this guy. This holds nothing but the form. So that being said, let's go to the code. And this is our profile content. And like you saw before, these are our three components. And this time we're going to cover this upload profile image form. And let's go to find him. We're going to go component form and upload profile image form. And as you can see, it's pretty simple looking. But just like the password one, it has been refactored. So once again, just simply look at this guy right here. And in this one, though, since we are talking to two separate, URLs, local Next.js URLs, one is handling user, one is handling image. So here we are also getting the user information, right? And then from the hook, we are passing that user information to the hook, the set user and user coming from the auth context. And then in return, we're getting a handle submit and the register from the React hook form, right? So let's go to the hook file first. So to find it, let's go under hooks and image upload form. Okay, all right. So from here, we just go straight to, okay, let's look at a React hook form and what we are returning. We're returning this register. Actually, let me just minimize it. What is the function name on submit image? Just simplify it, right? We'll get back to that later. So simply the hook is, and these are just, the React stuff, TypeScript interfaces, the types, the props we are sending the user and set user. And that's the props, that's the interface that represents this file type, the input types or argument types. And then this one is profile image file list. Now, file list is a default type. So our profile image, even though it's a one image, but it's going to come inside an array. So that's why we are setting this type. And this type now will go inside the image upload form data. It will go inside our on image submit function. And this function then, from the React hook form, we're already getting the handle submit watch. And this time, as I mentioned before, the password we were watching, in this case we're going to be watching the profile image, this one specific file we're going to be watching. So here we are sending register and handle submit, and we're simplifying the handle submit by already creating what it's about, handle submit, and inside on submit, right? So the whole thing will represent a simple handle submit, so less complexity, and register will only register our inputs, right? So this we send to this guy. I mean, we don't need any more. Okay, this guy, upload image, profile image form. So as you can see here, initially we got the user and set user and send this to this hook, and we got register and handle submit back. And in here we just use the register, create the input, which is image, profile image, and this is the one we're watching, and then upload, right? Simply upload, and in here we're calling on submit, handle submit that we got from the hook. That's it. This job is done. Now let's go back to the hook and hit the complexity here. So now that we got the data, and this happens only on submit. And you can also say like, oh, if we're selecting file, why we need this data again to verify, because we are using it inside my form data here, selected file, which is just watched file, right? Only difference is between this file, I mean this data or this file versus this selected file, is that this changes on the front end. As you saw in the password form, we were watching the password, which is the new password, and then we verified it with the confirmation of the password, right? So everything happened at the front end. So any changes in the front end, if people change file name or load another file, this will kick in. I mean, this is usually is used to, let's say, if you're uploading an image and you want people to see that, like, preview of the image, right? Happens on the front end, even before the submit. So that's when this is used. So this data we just got back from the form, and we're immediately checking it to profile image 0, since this is an array. Remember the file list. File list is an array, so we get the number 1, and then if we don't have the file, we just return saying no file selected. But once we do, then we can just append that to the form data, and then immediately make a call to API upload image. That happens to be in our Next.js API, and this guy is upload image, right? And then once this the file has been uploaded, we get the OK, then we get the response here, and we immediately, from the response, we get the ID, the image ID. It will generate once it uploads, and we take that ID and then we check for the user. Remember, up here we actually send the user from the context, and this user we check, and once we find that if the user is in, then we make another call to the /API/update user, which is this guy right here, and send it. Basically, we're going to send a put request, and we're going to send it the user ID and the image ID that we just uploaded, right? With these two, we're going to go ahead and update the user collection, so that Strapi knows that this image belongs to this user. Otherwise, it would be just a stray image sitting out there. Nobody will know what to attach it to, right? So once that happens, then I just make another call to the API current user. Now, you may ask why. The reason being, I try to collect the user information that gets returned after the put request, but what happens is it does not return all the data. By which I mean, remember, I mentioned here that we needed the user data for navigation. So and also for if we go to the profile and we needed the name, email, all that That means the user data needed the image information, and then let's say I may have attached other stuff to it, like how many comments. This is something we can update here. I had the comments collection attached to it. So Strapi by default, what it does is it does not return all the information when you do a put request, post request, whatever, right? So for that reason, I had this URL already created. I used it with the context API just to get the current user information. Remember, to persist the data when the very reason the refresh this, the context actually stays. The authentication status is already maintained because of that context, right? So that's the data I got from the current user. And if we look at here, it is just making a call to the user/me, which holds nothing but the current user, and then question mark populate, which basically gives me these data, right? So, good thing I kept it open. So basically, when you get the put or post request return data, you get only this. But you have to add question mark populate equals star, and only then you get this profile image information, comments information, etc., right? So that's the very reason I needed to make this call to this current user so that I get all the data back. So once I get all the data back and updated user data, because now you see, once the image has been uploaded and the ID, according to the ID, this user has changed, right? This user information has changed, and because of that, once we get the new current data, this one we put into another variable saying that this is the image, this is the user data with the image. So with the image data, we just take that and set user that data. That means we update the user data, and that's pretty much why as soon as we go here, as soon as we choose another image and upload, it immediately changes it because of that. Just because we do this set user. So everywhere, the context updates the user information and the data is updated everywhere, right? Now, that being said, let's look at these two most important. This is the most important, the upload image and the update user. So let's go to the upload image, see what it's doing. This is probably, one of the most difficult thing I had to do in this whole project because it just wasn't working. So basically, first we have to do an API parser false, because normally Next.js URLs, they handle only string array based data, right? So its default parser we had to disable so that we get the file information, because this time we're uploading files. So if it converts into string array, it's not going to work, right? So, and we check for the post, make sure it's post, and then we collect the Strapi URL, API key, everything from our .env file. And then we also collect the content type. Because I tried to use manually, it just didn't work. Some weird reason from the Strapi backend. So we had to match it. Like I just grabbed it from the header, assigned it the content type, and if I didn't find it, then I'll just send a error message. Otherwise, once we have the content type, we just send a Strapi response and fetch it to the URL/upload. And this is the URL, Strapi URL, where what you will use to upload the file, right? Image file or whatever. So this is, I'm just communicating with Strapi directly now, and with a post method, and the authorization token I'm sending through here, which I collected from my env file. That's the Strapi key, and the content type, which is right here, I got, right? And now here's the, another weird part, which is, what Strapi expects. For some reason, the whole request object as body. I tried to do like request.file, this, that. I mean, nothing worked. Okay. And another thing to remember that this fetch is a node fetch, right? I tried Axios, which blew up on my face. I tried, Axios with Formidable, another, very, robust, file upload or file management library. Everything failed. It took me a long, long time just to get to this. So that's why I'm just, pointing this out. What are the most important part of it? And that's just part one. Part two, once you have the file loaded, then you had to give the file an identity. And this is how I did it. So here it's also checking for the put request, because it is a put request, because we are updating the user collection, right? So in here, as you saw before, in this file, I think, yes, in here, that we're sending user ID and image ID, right? So now we go here, from the request.body, we're collecting user ID and image ID. And then we are through my Strapi client, because now it's just text information. So I went back to my Strapi client and send a put request and use the user ID here, user/user ID, and then populate, so that it gives me the extra data with the extra collection, like image and comments and everything. So here I'm just sending the profile image, as profile image, the image ID. And once again here, I am sending the header. I mean, HTTP only cookie require rec.cookie.jwt, which is available because I have it available as a HTTP only cookie on the server side. So I don't have to really access any other Strapi key from .env file or anything. And also this gives me the cookie of the the JWT of the authenticated user. So this one I'm sending with the user, because only the authenticated user will be able to update their own collection using the user ID. So I'm sending the token here and sending the image ID and updating this specific user with this user ID and attaching this image with this user, making it their own. And because of that, once again, when I go there, I choose, let's say, another one, open, upload, boom, it's right there. And we refresh, once again it's here, right? So now this image belongs to this user ID. And that being said, this concludes our whole journey of HTTP only cookie based, all the features as mentioned above here: route protection, user sign up, profile page, password reset, and profile image upload. Thanks for watching.